Hello and welcome to the 36th Connecticut LGBTQ Film Festival. My name is Marina Yurieva and I'm co-director of the film festival. And I have a pleasure to speak to Hanan Kattan, the producer of Polarized and many other beautiful films. And of course, Shamim Sarif, he's the director of Polarized and also many other films. You might know her by the film I Can't Think Straight, which is almost lesbian classics. It's really a great pleasure to meet you, and thank you for being here.
Such a pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting us.
Yeah.
We're really excited to be at the Out Film Festival.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you. Please tell us what does this film mean to you, and why was it important for you to make it, and how did it come about?
Yeah, so I think there was a period of time when just after Donald Trump was elected and Brexit was happening, and one of the reasons I felt like that was for me problematic was that I felt like we were suddenly in a time when again it was okay to kind of have a problem with people who are different than you. And so I really wanted to explore a story where this could happen in present day North America, that two young women in the same small town could be so separated, not just by race and religion, but by economic class and by just living on different sides of the town. So, but being very hopeful and an incurable romantic, thanks to my wife, I always like to see a hopeful ending. So I thought it would be interesting if after being fired for racism at the front of the movie, Lisa and Dahlia could kind of find a path towards friendship and then something more by the end.
Yeah. And also, I think still, unfortunately, up till this day, representation is really important. To have queer love stories, lesbian love stories, immigrant stories, Palestinian and small town. You don't see that often, and I think it's really important to continue to explore these layers through a feature film.
Right, you don't see it often, and you said it right, because I personally haven't seen similar stories very often, especially about immigrants of another faith, or immigrants from the bad country. And so this film shows the sexuality and immigrants and faith and all of that mixed together. And it's also very touching and romantic at the same time. So can you tell me how did you manage to put all of that at the same time?
That's Shamim's brilliance in writing.
So that's a really good question. I think, as Hanan said, I think it was for me, I wanted to have a story where we had an immigrant family who is not the traditional poor refugees and it was kind of interesting for me to have Dahlia and her Palestinian family actually be the successes in this small town. So I think there's already a dynamic and a culture shift there that's not expected. And I think it just, when you have those kinds of faith-based or economic-based or all these issues between these two, it just really raises the stakes of the love story, because I wanted to find a way to really keep them apart. And in life today, I think we live in a very liberal world in some respects. Like a lot of us live in this lovely bubble where things are more accepted, but a lot of the world is not like that. And it was very important for me to kind of show that this love story could happen in any kinds of situations, and to make it as hard as possible, only to illustrate that these things should not be keeping us apart, in an ideal world.
Right. Yeah. And Hanan, you played a role in the film. Can you?
You notice, huh?
She was very demanding. She had to have her own trailer. It was very.
No. Well, actually, both our sons, also Ethan and Luca, play a role in all of our films. But in this one, they played also the shopkeeper's son, Ali, and Hani, the tech guy. So they had roles in the film. It's a
Oh,
family affair.
wow, that's great. And how is it to make a film together? It's not your first film, right?
No.
I Can't Think Straight and other films. Did you make more than 2 films together?
No, we've made that's our 5th film. We
Oh,
made The World Unseen is also
mhm,
a love story between 2 women set in South Africa,
mhm,
and then Despite the Falling Snow, which is set in Russia.
mhm.
And yeah, so it's we've done several films together, which is very lucky for me because it's extremely hard to make a feature film. And I think it's even harder when you have women in the leads and women of color and queer women. The tide has turned a little bit, but it's still a commercial issue for a lot of financing. So it's very hard work for the producer.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I think most financiers are not as keen to support such stories, and then when we finally get them made, it's hard to get the distribution and sales and so on because they keep thinking there aren't enough people who are interested in these films. But thankfully, the festivals like yours and others are very important because they expose the films to audiences who are looking for our type of films, and really we see them not as lesbian love stories only, but as crossover films that should appeal to everybody, really. I mean,
Right.
I Can't Think Straight became a huge hit, as you mentioned, and so have other films that become cult following, really interesting. But we always like to expand beyond the sort of LGBTQ plus community. We'd like to have everybody watch and hopefully support and enjoy these films.
That's great because you answered my question, who this film is for. Yeah. And it's also you filmed it in Canada, and it's all in Canada, but you're based in UK.
Well, we live between London. Our base is London. Our sons are in London, but we do a lot of work. Shamim especially has been directing a lot in Canada, a series, and the UK. But our base is definitely London, with back and forth. So it's 50-50 almost. And we shot it in the prairies. Shamim wanted sort of the prairies, small town, beautiful skies, beautiful landscape that became a character of the film.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was important. We went around Canada, multiple provinces, and then we went back to Manitoba and decided to shoot it there.
Yeah, and the footage is beautiful.
Thank
So
you.
coming back to the film, to the plot, the film goes around the religion, and the women, Lisa and Dahlia, they have different faith, and they have 2 families that are very strong in their religious beliefs. And it's almost like you're comparing the 2 different religions, Christianity and Muslim. Is that so? And I know it's also based a little bit on your personal story. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, Shamim was brought up Muslim. I was brought up Christian. That's for sure. But also, I think you showed sort of small town people clinging onto their faith and their sort of, I guess you can explain it more, probably.
Yeah, no, it wasn't supposed to be like a direct contrast. Like, this is what it's like. But I just wanted to again play with those stereotypes that we often have in representation on screen, and say like in this case, I don't think Dahlia's family particularly related their problem with Lisa or her to religion. I think it was more just cultural, that it's like, she's from a different she's more working class than they would have wanted for Dahlia. She's a woman. All of these things are culturally sensitive. Whereas, and for Lisa's family, I think the religion was just a way to show the kind of rootedness of the community, in that sticking with what you know is important, and that there are these expectations that, you know, there's this great guy, Ben, right there, who's,
Mhm.
you know, why can't she be happy with him? And because those expectations, I think, very much existed for us growing up. And I talked to a lot of people today where unfortunately they still do exist. So I think it was very important to just kind of represent that and not just have a story with queer characters where everybody's, it's not a coming out story. I feel like they know who they are and they're okay with it. It's not their own issues, but it's just the difficulties of crossing the barriers of family and just freeing yourself from that.
But also in America, I mean, most states still have conversion therapy, as you know, it's legal.
It's not, yeah, it's not illegal.
It's not illegal. And in Canada, it only became illegal, I think, last year.
Mhm.
So it's still very prevalent in a lot of states and a lot of countries and so on. So yeah, that was kind of touched upon as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And there is a lot of music in the film. Lisa is always playing guitar and has, you know, singing her own songs. So can you talk about the importance of music in your film?
Yeah, and listen, music is so important to me. Just when I'm writing, anyway, I always have playlists for the rhythm, for the feeling, for a certain emotion. But in this film, Lisa is a singer-songwriter. So there were two things. I wanted to get an amazing songwriter to do whose songs we could use as Lisa's songs, and we found a wonderful Canadian singer-songwriter called Brooke Paulson, and we used her songs for that. Then I was really lucky that Hanan was able to kind of raise us some post-production funding, and Telefilm and the other Canadian financiers were supportive of us getting this soundtrack that was kind of, I wanted it to be partly modern Palestinian music and also some iconic modern country music from people like Ashley Monroe and Roseanne Cash. So it was this really great mix that kind of symbolizes both sides of the town and both cultures, but just through music. So I think it's really, it made me very happy that we were able to get such an amazing range of music in this film. And I think the soundtrack is just incredible. It's on Spotify, and even I listen to it all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, and the score is beautiful. I mean, Shamim worked very closely with the composer to give him exactly the feel and the emotions and the type of score in the background, as well as the songs that we licensed for the film.
Yeah.
So I think that was really important as
Yeah,
well.
I think he did an incredible job on that. Yeah.
Mhm. And how long did it take you to make this film? And were there any challenges?
Oh, so many. How long do we have? No, I mean, to develop a film and a feature film, it took many, many years. But to get the shooting itself was only 17 days. Because of the budget, we didn't have a bigger budget, and then it was after COVID, there are lots of films shooting, so it was a challenge getting the right crew and the right team. But the development itself and raising the funding and putting it together, that took a good maybe 4 years.
Yeah.
And then post-production another maybe 4 or 5 months, and then wrapping it, getting it ready. So yeah, it's quite probably 5-6 years from when Shamim wrote the script to finally getting it finished.
Yeah.
And so Shamim, you've directed many films, and you've directed films together with Hanan, and you directed also. You were one of the directors of the Netflix show You, right?
That's right. Yes.
So can you tell us what do you like the most? And because it's very different probably to direct something, the giant production like You, and to direct your own film where you're your own you have control of everything, right?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. Listen, I love directing series, and You was a wonderful experience, and a really nice budget, and you can beautiful studios and really high quality crew, wonderful cast. So I really loved that experience, and all the shows that I'm lucky enough to direct.
Can't afford her anymore.
I'll have my people call your people.
Yeah.
There's nothing like, as you say, working on something that I've written and come up with, and that Hanan and I've worked on together in development for such a long time. It's very, very, very personal and very heartfelt. So, Polarized was a struggle in many ways, with the production, with a very small crew and a very inexperienced crew, because there were so many things shooting in Manitoba at that time. So it was really hard work, but I felt very blessed that we were able to cast two amazing young lead actresses, Holly DeVoe and Maxime Denis, as well as an incredible supporting cast. And I think with these two in the lead, we spent a few days of rehearsal, because Hanan, I think she understood, like, we could only shoot for 17 days, but she did her best to get us to have that rehearsal time, because that makes a big difference, because you shoot a film completely out of sequence. So, it's very hard for them to start with a big argument on day one, without really knowing each other or knowing the characters. So that really was incredibly helpful. And they both worked so hard to work on those character journeys with me. So I felt like between the four of us, we were a very tight creative unit. And then we made it happen. So there's nothing quite like that, I think, when it's your own story and your own characters.
And also, it was very not easy to find Arab Canadian actors who spoke the language, who knew the culture, and who were fine to play in Polarized, because traditionally, previously, whether the actors or their families have an issue with any lesbian love stories, but we were lucky and fortunate that we had talented cast and also very supportive cast.
Oh wow! How did you find the cast? Was it hard?
It was hard. I mean, it took months, especially the Arab cast. It took months and months. We had a casting director in Canada and lots of tapes, lots of rehearsals. Shamim went through many, many, many auditions to find really the gems that we finally end up with. Yeah, it was quite a challenge, I think.
It was. We took our time and really just tried to find, go with our gut as to who we knew it wasn't about finding somebody who looked right for the role. It was really the performance in the audition, and then also meeting with those actors and just seeing if the communication is good, because when you're under pressure on a film set, and if you get behind, you lose pieces of your movie, you don't get shot. So it's very important that we can all talk to each other and adjust performance quickly and all of those things. So
Shamim's very good with finding talent and working with talent, whether Lisa Ray, Shito Sheikh, Rebecca Ferguson, it's like you're very good with that.
Hanan Kattan.
No, you have a very good eye with actors, that's for sure. I do too, but not like you. Yeah, that's why
wow, that's amazing. And what are you working on right now? What are your future projects?
Yeah, I'm currently shooting another series over here in Toronto, which I think I'm not supposed to talk about just yet, but it's a wonderful show, and
we have another feature.
We're working on a few other projects. We have a whole range of things that we're working on, including a feature called Arranged, which is a romantic comedy about two young women from the Indian community whose moms pushed them together into an arranged marriage.
Oh wow!
Or tried. So it's a lot of.
That's a fun project. Yeah. Hopefully next year, if we can put it all together, or thereabouts, we'll start shooting. Maybe,
yeah.
That's amazing. Well, it looks like you have a lot going on, and it's all very exciting, and we're gonna wait for your next films and shows. Thank you for talking to me, and thank you for your film. It's amazing, and all best with your projects.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us also.
Thank you very much.
Everyone enjoys it as well.
Yes, and thank you to the audience for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.